Dashin.
Hi, and welcome to another edition of Newsmakers Journal of the Vaccine Year. I'm Jerry Roberts. It is Friday, October 29th, Halloween Eve, and we are joined by our top local journalists, Jun Starkey from the Santa Barbara Independent, Nick Welsh, award-winning columnist for 2 years in a row, and Josh Molina, international man of mystery and widely known podcaster from Newshawk. Thank you all for joining us. Quick recap on the pandemic. We're averaging 60 new cases a day, which is a tick up of about 11% from last week, which is not good. 40 people hospitalized, 14 in ICU, death toll now at 523 in the county. And the answer, of course, is get a vaccine, get 2 vaccines, and then get a booster. All those stats, thanks to our friend over at Newshawk, and Ryan Cruz has everything you need to know at the Indy about getting a booster shot. So with that, we'll leave the pandemic and talk about schools. June, the Santa Barbara School District has decided to do away with a student resource officer. I'm old enough to remember 2 years ago when they brought the student resource officer back. Why now, and what's the controversy?
Well, this came after a couple of meetings within the district with some student groups and local activist groups. I think the most frequent one was Cops Off Campus SB. It's a mostly student-run organization. They have a pretty popular Instagram, and they publish testimonials from students, alumni about their experiences with SROs. It seems like the school board is just responding to this, this outcry from students, from such a large amount of the student population that feel uncomfortable with an armed presence on campus.
Was there anything that happened specific? I mean, because the other 2 high schools also have student resource officers, correct?
Yeah, they all do.
So was there anything in particular that happened in San Marcos that triggered this, so to speak?
It doesn't seem to be a particular incident or any kind of interaction. I think it's just, it's been built up over years. From what I've seen of the testimonials, it seems like the SRO, the deputy, mostly just harassed students who were late, who were tardy. A lot of students of color in particular felt like they were targeted. So I think this is just over years. I think students have finally felt like they should say something and call on the board to make it a more encouraging environment for them.
Josh, am I remembering correctly that it was just 3 years ago now, I guess, when with the famous incident in the chat room at San Marcos High with the students, male students threatening female students, that they brought the SRO back? Isn't that what happened?
Yeah, at the risk of prompting a letter to the editor from Laura Capps, I do believe that she and the school board at that time were supportive of a school resources officer. Now, not so much. So things have shifted quite a bit really quickly, and so it's interesting to watch why that is. Obviously, there was this threat in the chat room. Somebody had a musket. There was a student, some female students who felt unsafe on campus, and the school resources officer, I think, was sort of seen as a resource there in sort of limiting or preventing any potential violence. It's obviously a different time. San Marcos High School has a very strong student advocacy group. They're the school that led the march after the George Floyd murder. They're the school that rallied, gathered, got most of the students out. So they're very much working as activists, and they're saying, we feel, they have examples of students who feel targeted, harassed, students of color. Maybe the school resources officer asked certain questions of some students that they wouldn't ask of others. I don't get the sense, Jerry, that there's the same on-campus activism at Dos Pueblos High School. I think that's going to be a different conversation. I don't know if there's the same sort of will to remove George Hedricks, who's the deputy resources officer, who's pretty popular on that campus. We'll have to see. Hilda Maldonado issued a Friday or Monday or someday sort of press release statement sort of saying, we will make sure we get community feedback and talk about this before we make any change. So that's what's going on. And there is some pushback. It wasn't long ago when we were concerned about school shootings and we wanted somebody who was there.
And
So
Nick, I know you'll agree with me that there is tremendous irony, if not cosmic paradox, in the school board and the district, asking Chief Barney Malakian for more police presence at the school board meeting, but deciding to eliminate it at San Marcos High in the wake of political pressure.
I think.
A yes or no will suffice, Nick.
Yes, is that a question? You looking for an echo chamber, or are you asking a question, dude?
You sound like you're in an echo chamber. All right, let's talk about, Nick has a must-read piece this week, a Unified Theory of Homelessness. And if I understand it correctly, Nick, your unified theory is that there are really tremendous progress being made. And it's one of those, who are you going to believe, me or your lying eyes pieces, that things have really never better than ever.
It's not. We're not in the Professor Pangloss world of we are living in the best possible universe or anything close to it. What we are doing, though, is we are on the cusp of a moment of possible change. I think is really what it is. We are making some changes already, and the problem is that a lot of people are getting housed. A lot of people who are living in parks in Isla Vista, like 27 of the people who are living in the parks in Isla Vista, it's not a huge number, but it's a significant number, went from the parks to being housed. And there's definitely stories like that about people living on State Street. But the numbers are so big that the progress seen is so small. But what we have here is we have $28 million, which we talked about last week, of ARPA money, federal emergency assistance money, going to homeless and homeless infrastructure and services. That's a significant amount. So that, people tend just to see, oh my God, it's just the same old crap. It's the same old thing that we've been dealing with for 30 years. Nothing has changed except for the acronyms. Let's just, lock them up and throw away the key or something along those lines. There's exhaustion. And I do think that we have the possibility here of some significant change.
So you set forth in your piece a number of specific projects and programs that you say are housing people. So why is it not visible to people?
Because there's just so many homeless people. Why are there so many homeless people? That is sort of the big mystery as to what gives rise to this sort of ever increasing population. I mean, part of the problem is, like, we have a homeless shelter in Santa Barbara called Pass, supposed to be open in the winter for 200 people. I am told the last 2 years it was only open for 100. And you have COVID, so you can't have as many people in the shelter. So what you have is people who used to be out of sight, out of mind. Now they're not. Now they're in tents on the beach. Now they're in underpasses. They're not out of sight, out of mind the way they used to be. The whole ecosystem of private bathrooms where people used to go and sleeping on the streets is much more pronounced. You can't miss them.
Yeah, and we should note that you took the opportunity to once again sing the praises of the St. Mary's Project, the controversial St. Mary's Project. It was almost like a choir of angels singing about that site in your piece. You were
But
really
Jerry, if
taken,
you
you
will
were
note-
really struck by it.
Gary, if you will note, it said commentary. It said opinion.
No. I'm not. I'm talking about the physical description you provide.
Oh my God. If you go up there, it is insane. You walk up there, you go, wow, look at this place. And it has a calming effect on you. You sit there and the silence is just amazing. And the hillsides are amazing. And you just go, wow, I want to be an alcoholic so I can go get sober here. I mean, that place is, it really, I mean, I don't play basketball, but you look at those basketball courts, they are outrageous. You have a commercial kitchen in there, you could get, like, you start a whole food program and feed the hungry. It is an amazing place.
All right.
So, yeah, it is, you can't look at it and not think, oh man, this could do
Right.
some good.
Well, in all seriousness, Nick covers the homeless issue obviously better than anybody and more than anybody. And so he's a must read. And this week's quite interesting. That said, Josh, have you seen any change in the political landscape that would make you think this St. Mary's project, sponsored by Richard Bertie, a downtown real estate magnate, is gonna be a go?
I have not heard any movement toward making it happen in terms of its original proposal. I think that there could be a good use for it, but it's still to be determined. I think people are collaborating, conversations are happening, brainstorming. I don't think it's going to be, let's move the homeless downtown up there for all the issues that have been talked about, but I think that is seen as a resource and what can be done there, but I don't know that they've decided yet. And by the way, Jerry,
And real quickly, why did Sheriff Bill Brown grab this week? What's
Well, there's a couple of, first of all, just to go to, nobody is really talking seriously about having this as an emergency homeless shelter, the way, say, the Path or Casa Esperanza. What they're really, I think, talking about is bridge housing for 30 to 60 to 90 days for people who are going through rehab programs so that they can get stabilized so that they can get housing. I think that is sort of the if there is a plan, it would be kind of more of that way. Bill Brown got involved in it because Richard Bertie is on the Sheriff's Benevolent Council and has been a significant donor to the Sheriff's Benevolent Council. And Bill Brown has been interested in programs kind of like this before, and has brought the guy from San Antonio, Texas, who built something far more expansive and comprehensive to Santa Barbara a couple of times. So Richard Bertie basically got Bill Brown to, step up.
I think the official title is the Controversial Sheriff's Benevolent Council. Is Sheriff Bill Brown running next year?
Yes.
Yeah. For what, term 400 or something?
453.
All right, we got an election, or at least an election day. Most people have probably voted in 4 days. So it's been kind of an interesting election, not least in District 4, June, where you ably moderated a discussion between the two candidates, incumbent Kristen Snedden and challenger Barrett Reed. What's going on? It almost seems like Barrett raised so much money that the money became an issue itself. I mean, we kind of wonder what he's going to spend it on. Where do things stand in that one?
Well, I think that, obviously he's raised a lot more money than Kristen Snedden at this point. And I think that the issue with Nell donating over 12.
Yeah, Jim Cannell.
Yeah, Jim Cannell going way over the 4,900 was sort of a way for Kristen to amp herself up a little bit more, point the finger at Reed and point out that was a violation. And I think now that he has done that and he's acknowledged that, it's probably going to take a small hit to his campaign.
Yeah, and when they count the votes on Tuesday night, who will be the winner, do you believe?
Probably Snedden, just because not only the she's a Democratic incumbent, but because of the ties she has to the environmental activist community here, those are two huge things in Santa Barbara. And I think when you don't have either of those, you're just already at a disadvantage.
Yeah, Josh, it seemed almost like the Sneddon campaign was kind of rolling out marbles in front of Barrett Reed every day, for him to trip and slip and so on. But I understand he's kind of upset with some of the reporting and with Sneddon particularly, because he feels like she did the same thing, which he is accused of doing, which is taking $4,900 contributions from multiple business entities of the same person. What do you hear about that?
Yeah, I think I've talked to Barrett Reed this week, and I think he generally feels that the media is pro Sneddon and anti him. Obviously, that's not true. The media just covers things as they come, and when they find things out, they report on them. I think Sneddon's may have accepted. I don't know. I think that he was requesting that people look into Kristen's financial contributions. As far as I know, Kristen's financial contributions are fine, and no one has really tried to hide anything by giving under multiple LLCs. I think the contest is close. I think that Barrett Reed has raised a ton of money. He's worked really hard. He's knocked on a whole bunch of doors, and he presents really well. He makes an impact. And people, when they get to spend some time with him, they often like him. So I think he's going to make it pretty close. He brings something that Jay Higgins did not bring, Jim Scafidi did not bring last time. Kristen is the incumbent, and she's wildly popular in that district. We'll find out if she is able to maintain those votes that she got last time or not. I think that she probably has the edge. She's the incumbent, and I think if you're betting, you're saying Kristen's going to get reelected.
All right, that's two guys two people for saying Kristen will win. Nick, you noted in your column this week the sort of the double-edged sword of Barrett's money, that it kind of makes people stop and go, what? Why are you doing all that? What's your sense of what's going on in that district?
Well, I think that district is, looking at the turnout so far, there's actually been a pretty decent turnout in that district compared to, say, the east side and the west side and District 6, which is downtown, where there's about a 20% turnout if you're lucky. So we're like a few days from election day, and there's only 20% of the votes turned in certain districts. And I know that the campaigns are, I think particularly those associated with Democrats, are freaking out because the low turnout tends to favor more moderate or conservative candidates. I think, Kristen has a head start because she's lived in that district for a long time. She's been involved in school districts and school matters in that district. People know her. She sort of reflects the sort of slow growth, historic preservation ethos of it. She's definitely been all about, the fire issue. She's a known quantity, whereas, Barrett is sort of a bright, shiny object. He's very personable. He's very engaging, but, it's like, who is he really? And I think he just, he hadn't lived there as long as she had, and he doesn't have the same sort of ties. And he sort of represents a more conservative, business-oriented candidate for which there are fewer voters than there are for the types that come out for Sneddon.
Yeah, and to the point of who is he, your colleague Tyler Hayden, readers of his popular newsletter were agog this week at his assertions and pretty much of an attack on Barrett, on his integrity.
Yeah, I would say that if I was Barrett, I would feel attacked. I mean, that was not a reticent criticism. It was pretty pedal to the metal.
So do you agree with Jun and with Josh that Sneddon's likely to win?
I would definitely give her an edge, and I would probably give Megan Harmon in District 6 downtown. I would give her an edge as well over challenger Nina Johnson. It's an interesting race, but again, 20% of the people only have cast their ballots yet. who knows what's going to happen? I mean, I think the big story is going to be who didn't vote.
And then that District 6 race got sort of drawn into the drama narrative of the week when Lee Heller, a loyal Democratic soldier, sent a letter to the Democratic Women's Club, which endorsed Nita Johnson, explaining why they shouldn't endorse, where they should pull her endorsement. And a number of people seem to feel that that was over the line. Well, I didn't think so. What did you think?
You know, my reaction to that controversy was sort of shocked that there's gambling at Rick's. In politics, people are always trying to get one side or the other to pull out because you're not going to win, and everybody's constantly playing sort of underwater water polo. And Lee Heller, who is actually technically a Green Party member, even though she is very tight with the Democratic Party machine, she wrote a very long letter to E.J. Bora, who is with the committee you mentioned, and said, hey, we didn't know then what we know now about where Nina is. Now that you know it, would you like to withdraw? It would be a good idea. It doesn't seem like it's consistent with the Democratic Party platform. And, people don't like to be asked to change their mind and pressured, and EJ didn't dig it and passed it on to Deborah Schwartz, who got upset on her behalf.
Yeah. So so you think Harmon wins in that district?
I would, yeah, I think so.
Josh, what do you think?
I'm not sure here. Let me no, I think the betting money's on Megan Harmon.
Yeah. Do you agree with that, June? Have you watched that race much?
Yeah, I have. I would probably bet on Megan too.
Yeah. The thing that strikes me in both of those races is that Barrett and Nina were both very, potentially strong candidates, and they're candidates though that would have run much better citywide. I think that they would have attracted more support than they did in an individual district. And we talked about this at the beginning. If you're going to take out an incumbent, you got to make the case against the incumbent. And Barrett sort of said, well, Kristen kind of changes her mind a lot. But I mean, I never understood what the case was against her. And in terms of Nina, she was, basically, I know a lot about city government, but she too did not make the case against Megan Harmon. And I do think that Coastal Commission seat is something that's gonna help her. Well, let's talk about the mayor's race. Deborah Schwartz went public with a meeting that she had with Doss Williams, who's publicly funded administrative aide, also happens to be the head of the Democratic Party, in which he urged her more or less strongly, depending on who you talk to get out and endorse Kathy Murillo. And Deborah pointed out that none of her supporters would be for Kathy Murillo, even if she did drop out. What'd you think of that, Josh? Was that overplayed, underplayed? On a scale of 1 to 5, how big of a political dust-up scandal is that?
I think Deborah threw a political tantrum, and it reflects more poorly on her than it does Doss Williams. I think that, Deborah is probably not going to win, and she's going public with a conversation she had with Doss. And like Nick said, I mean, if we're being honest and real and not acting like everything's a major atrocity in politics, like it's totally happens all the time where people go to other people and say, don't run now, or step out, or try to negotiate. It's part of the game. It's not something to be like outraged about. So yes, Doss probably erred politically in the sense of, he's a county supervisor. He should be above the party politics. Maybe somebody else should talk to Deborah, but they're concerned about Kathy losing. So they're pulling out all the stops. I don't think it's a scandal. I think it's just what you would expect them to be doing at the last minute in order to try to secure more votes for for Kathy. And, if Deborah gets a media bounce among, some media entities this week, Tuesday night, I don't know that it will matter.
I don't know that it'll matter either. And I wrote it and interviewed Deborah, although she was at first reluctant because she was, I don't know, had some kind of arrangement with the Montecito Journal, which had, I think 28,000 words on the subject. But to me, it's interesting because I do think you have this sort of festering wound behind the scenes, not to mix a metaphor, with the Democratic Party, where there's a number of particularly women, and Hannah Beth Jackson, had a lot of problems with the party and with Daraka Larimore Hall, and you look at Kristen Sneddon or Kate Ford or Marsha Croninger, or a lot of others. In this case, Deborah Schwartz, and they're not happy with how the Democratic Party has been run in this sort of top-down thing with Daraka and Das sort of leading the charge. So that was my nut graph. And I know, Josh, you're a great aficionado of nut graphs, so you read all the way to paragraph 4. What do you think, Nick? Do you think anything comes of this after that the party says, hey, we gotta figure out what to do? If nothing, get rid of this process by which we try to clear the field by endorsing in January for a race that's in November. That's a bit of an exaggeration.
I would probably bet more that the independent will be blamed if Kathy loses for having endorsed James Joyce III, and that the problem will not be seen as any issue within the party or the candidates that it supports, but media distortion and such like that. That did seem to be the message in Darcel Elliott's latest, oh my God, we're going through a replay of 2016 between Hillary Clinton.
Yes, because
and
Randy
Donald Trump.
Rouse is definitely Donald Trump. Yeah,
It doesn't do, what was the real problem with that, I felt bad for Cassie Murillo, because who wants to be like him with Hillary Clinton? That's not the role you want to be assigned. I just think that, the Democrats are going to do what the Democrats do, and people like to get all exercise about them. But, nationally, the Democratic Party is many parties at odds with itself, and locally, why would it be any different? And you have lots of people who consider themselves card-carrying, knee-jerk, yellow dog Democrats who feel alienated from the party, either by issue of personality or ideology. But a lot of times, I think election night is going to be very awkward. It's going to be very personally awkward to go around, and it'd be like having all the relatives who can't stand each other coming to Thanksgiving dinner, and they all have to pretend to eat the turkey together.
Well, they're all going to be in a De La Guerra Plaza, where I guess the city is going to shine the results on a big screen down there or something. I don't know. It sounds like a fun time. June, are you going down? And regardless, who do you think's going to finish first?
Yeah, I am going down there. Ryan and I are doing the election night coverage.
You're doing the parties?
Yeah.
Nice.
So all this has been really encouraging. I want to say Kathy, but at this point, I feel like I do see what Nick is saying a little bit, and that we might have just slightly diverged the results. But I would say Kathy or Randy. I'm not 100% sure. I know that there has been a lot of dissatisfaction with Kathy's leadership, but I'm not sure if that's enough to boost Randy to mayor, but
all right,
we'll see. Maybe tonight.
Nick, you felt compelled to tell the world that we have a bet on the results of this, and then tried to excuse me Welsh on the bet in the process of the column. What's your real sense of who's going to win?
Well, first, let me just take exception to a term that is rooted in the British imperialist oppression of the Welsh people.
All right, you're with the oppressed. Okay.
Okay, let me just tell you, there was when I was a kid, Patty was a Welshman. Patty was a thief. Patty came to my house and stole the roast beef. It's another example of British imperialism with the boot heel on the neck of the Welsh and Irish people.
Okay.
So
Okay.
So tell us who the independent's endorsing again, Nick, please.
we endorse James Joyce III. And we hope that James Joyce III will have his victory party at the pub that bears that name, but he's going to be on a place elsewhere on Haley Street. I think it's a long shot that James wins. I think that probably Randy would win, but you know, I go back and forth on that. I think really the turnout, if the turnout's low, I think it gives Randy a much better
Well,
shot.
those numbers you cited about the west side are not encouraging at all.
No, the
That's-
west side and the
that's-
east side, which are typically strongholds for Kathy Murillo, are really turning out in trickles and dribs and drabs, whereas the Riviera and the Mesa and San Roque, they're turning out in much greater numbers, and they are typically more aligned with Randy.
All right, Josh, I know you got to go pick up kids, but what's your final thoughts on the mayor's race?
I'm more wondering if Matt Kilrain's going to get more votes than Whitehurst. That's really
That's a
what,
really good question.
that's
That
the
is
mystery
really-
for me on election night.
Oh, he absolutely will. He will.
Matt Kilrain, as you know, eccentric as he is, a lot of people like his little slogan and think he's like, you know, why not vote for that guy? So I think he's going to get more votes than we give him credit for. You know, I think the incumbent slate.
You think he
is
gets
tip-
more than Deborah?
No, I don't think Deborah's got a base, you know, she'll get 1,100 votes or something. I think that you got to go with the incumbents. That's the smart betting money. That includes Kathy, but obviously for a variety of factors, we won't name names or point fingers. Randy has a really good shot of pulling off the upset here. So
Yeah, I think the two things. One, the conventional wisdom says Randy Rouse gets elected, and two, the conventional wisdom is always wrong. So with that said, we'll let me ask you real quick, Josh, this hotel, have you got time to talk about this Funk Zone Hotel thing? It's kind of weird. We're all supposed to be building housing, and all we seem to be building is hotels.
yeah, so we had the Funk Zone Hotel proposal, which got good reviews from the Planning Commission. And then we have the HLC giving approval to I forget how many, but a small number of hotels, maybe 12 hotel rooms on State Street. I think it's 801 State Street. It used to be site of Mel's,
Yeah.
Mel's
Used to
and
be Rob Dayton's, hot dog place.
yeah, it's had a number of incarnations, but now it's going to be hotel. They couldn't make it pencil out with the number of homes they could put there. So they're putting hotels. Yeah, it's like, why aren't we putting housing there? But these are small. I think these hotel rooms are 250 square feet. They're really small.
Yeah, all right. And then the other big story of the week was Bellasquardo and the Attorney General. Take care, Josh. Looking into the tax filings of that tangled web. June, have you followed Tyler's coverage of the Bellasquardo story?
I have, but I don't think I could speak to it as well as you probably could.
Well, are you, now, here's what I want to know. How outraged are you on a scale of 1 to 5, with 1 being and 5 being, this is the worst thing I've seen since Watergate?
Probably 2.
2, all right. Nick, where are you?
Probably about that as well. I mean, it smells, it's been a long time since, about 5 years, 6 years now since the board was formed, and all this was going to be made into some kind of a public entity, and a nonprofit was formed. We haven't seen anything. We aren't hearing anything. The person running the board is Jeremy Lindeman, who, for people who cover politics, is he's an acquired taste and a spicy sausage, and he doesn't ingratiate himself. And he helped, he worked with Helene Schneider, then mayor, then ran for Congress. He runs Bill Brown's reelection campaign. He isn't an easy person to get along with, and the fact that he is involved has really brought disfavor to it, and the lack of any transparency
A
or
lack of
accountability.
transparency,
It's
exactly.
like, what are you doing with it? When is the public going to see
And
it?
he's like, taunting people about the fact that he's getting a big salary. Some people saying he's living over there. And, it's just like, I don't have to tell you anything, I mean, to me, the scandal is Jeremy Lindemann. That's the scandal. And it's a lot of rich people who gave money and continue to give money to something that a rich lady gave the city that I don't know. I can't make heads or tails of it. I don't really want to see a doll collection. I don't think she's that great an artist. It would be nice to have it as a venue where you could go take a walk or something, but you had the exclusive that it was Ariana Huffington's daughter who was married there in another private event. That was pretty interesting.
That was, I mean, the Huffingtons moved here in the 90s. They bought a congressional seat for Michael Huffington, who is a Texas oil wildcatter son.
The Texas oil man Californians just can't trust, as Dianne Feinstein's ads famously had it. All right, June, what are you working on? What do you got for next week?
I've got the city's criminal case against Chase downtown.
Oh, yeah.
With them infringing on the street a little bit.
They're gonna arrest, is it Butler?
No. I think if anything, it would probably be a fix-it ticket. I think this is just, I think we're starting to get into the dynamic of what the promenade's gonna be from now on.
And you'll be out and about on election night with all the parties. That's a great story. That's always a great story. Especially go to the losers. That's the best. All right, what do you got? You got anything coming up, Chief?
Nah.
You've exhausted yourself with the.
I'm going to do another hagiographical piece on the possibilities of St. Mary's. How
All right. Thank you very much. Stay safe. We'll see you next week.
All right.